Thanks for coming, and happy to be here. And the CEO of Glispa is Gary Lin. I'm the CEO of the Israel office and the VP strategy, but thanks for the introduction. So in God we trust, all the rest need data. Quick introduction about Glispa and about myself. So Glispa is a global marketing company focusing on in-app activities. What's unique about Glispa is, one, we're truly global with 7 offices in the world, 180 people in all our offices, and we're heavily investing in the data and tech play. We launched our own DMP, our data platform, and we'll today discuss a lot about what exactly this is. And we're heavily invested in the SDK and API and the tech solutions for app developers. A few words about me. I'm the VP strategy of the company, dealing with key partnerships, M&A, and also I run the Israel office. My background is in mobile and in marketing. I was the VP marketing of Sport.com before that. So let's speak a bit about what's going on today in the mobile world. So there is so many apps launching every day on the biggest platforms, and if we look also on the alternative market, this is like around 4K apps a day. So it's super crowded. And then 70% of the apps are having a really, really hard time to generate downloads from their apps, and only 35% of the apps can actually make a bit of money from it. And if I'm looking only at apps that have like a profitable, sustainable business model, then it will be only 1% of the apps. But on the other side, this is a huge market of almost $9 billion. So what's really going on here? Today we'll try to discuss the problem in this industry, is how data can help us to solve them, and some tips and tricks, like actual tips and tricks that you can do tomorrow to implement them and hopefully to help your business. So key challenges, one is around the revenues. There is 80% of the revenues being ruled by 20% of the apps, and there is actually 1.5% of all the apps that have the majority, like 60% of the revenues. So in today's market, you need to be or very rich with deep pockets, or just to be very lucky. Today we'll try to see how through data we can be more competitive in this market. And then if I'm looking at the advertising, we see that lack of transparency, and we'll talk a lot about transparency today and how it can help you, how it's such of a big deal in the loss in the advertising ecosystem, and how much fraud is also a very, very big deal. So how to succeed? In one word, data, and a few more words. We see 4 topics around data. Why do we really need data? How we can really use the data? What data do I need to execute? And from where I can get these data? I see these 4 questions as key to understanding how to utilize and maximize our activities from the apps through data. So let's start with, why do I really need data? If I'm looking on the marketing strategy, I see 3 main components that data can really help you. 1, user acquisition. If I can do a better targeting, if I can know better who are my users, then I can just give them a better service, and then I can be much more competitive. And we'll talk later about how to decrease the eCPM, like the CPI for my acquisitions. How do I get better users that will be more active in my app? But that's the first topic. Second, on the monetization side. If I want to get money from ads, but then I also want to keep a good user experience, I need to balance between what kind of ads my audience will really want to see. And then let's talk a bit about ad blockers. Today, ad blockers are increasing super fast. People use ad blockers because they don't like their experience with ads. And for me, this is an indication that there is a problem in the ad tech industry, because in my opinion, if a user will see a good ad, he will not need or want to have this ad blocker. And then for me, it's a game of 2 things. 1, targeting. If you want to fly tomorrow to Indonesia, and you will get the best flight option in your app, that's a good ad. You would want it. And second, if the format will be very intuitive and the experience will be good, for example, it will be like a native ad that will look good and not a pop-up that will jump under your screen when you don't want to see it. It's also a good experience. And that's the whole story about native. Native is not only the user experience, that it feels part of the app, it's also the right content that you want to see. So that's about what we'll talk in the monetization part. And then App Store optimization. If I can be really data-driven, and if I can understand what keywords are more attractive or more relevant for my audience, I can increase my organic installs, and I can make sure not only that I have more installed, but also the users are more relevant. Because today, the way that the ASO algorithm works for Google and Apple, if a user installs your app, and then he doesn't really use your app a lot, you will decrease your App Store ranking. And your App Store ranking, it's that defines how attractive you will be on the App Store page, how many people will see you, how many organic installs you'll get. So it's really, really important to use data to do that better. And then also from the data perspective is how do I combine all these components? Because data that I have for my user acquisition can really help me to do a better App Store optimization. Because user acquisition is about acquiring users. If I know who wants to use my app, I can use this data for the App Store optimization. So that's really on the marketing side how we see data as important. And then it's important to understand that data is not only for marketing, it's also for product. If I can optimize my product through a better experience through data, that's great. If I can A/B test what exactly screens my audience wants to see, I can give them a better product and also be more personalized because different people want to see different things. And then if I would look on my users as people and personas and not as device numbers, I can really, really help them to be more engaged. So that's a bit about why we need data to help the marketing and the product efforts. Now let's understand what data do I really need, like actual specific data to implement on the verticals we just discussed. Okay, this is an important slide. If there's a few slides you want to remember from this presentation, this is one of them because it's a very practical slide on what you can do. Let's discuss about it. Location-based. If I know where the user is from the app permission, from his location in the device, I can understand some really important things. One, I assume that every person is most of his day at home or at work. If I know on what specific time he's where and in what direction he goes, I can understand on a very high certainty if he's at home or at work. If now it's 8 a.m. and he's traveling to one direction, he's there until 6 a.m., and then at 6 a.m. he goes to the game he just came from, we can assume he was at home, went to work, and went back to home. Now, a user at home and a user at work wants different things from their in-app activity. Some people at home have a lot of time, play games, but when they go to work, their boss is super tough and never allows them to play. So this user serves him an ad when he's at home and not at work. And there are different examples. People that in work can do whatever they want, but then when they come home, their wife is super tough, or their husband, and they want them to be with them, so they can't really play games or other apps. So location is a really important factor on all the monetization and user acquisition activities. Time. People in different times of the hour want to do different things. And I'm not even talking about different time zone. If you are serving ads to people in different countries, in one place it could be a morning versus it could be the night in a different place. One thing you would want to avoid is sending a user at 3 a.m. a push notification with music. Because then, in some cases, it can wake him up. He'll just delete your app. So we really need to understand these demographics and these factors and utilize them. We'll just focus on some important, because we have some more data to talk about today, behavior. We need to take actions not only from what happened, but what will happen. If I know that the user installed is now flying to Rome, he has a flight to Rome, there's a good chance he would do it in an hotel, a car service, and we can predict what he would want and give him that. I'll just jump to the next slide and we can discuss the other topics here after the lecture. I'll be here and we can talk about them. So every activity in your app, when you click an ad, when you open an ad, when you like an ad, when you download an app, each one of these things is crucial information, is peak of goals to optimize your activity. So where do I get this data from? One option is add a social layer. If I can log in through Facebook or Twitter, I can get information about the Facebook ID. Also, I can create my own social layer. And this is something I did in my previous company, Sport.com, and we can talk about it later. We created a social layer that connected all our 30 apps. It's like a fitness met Instagram. And we got tons of information about the users. Also, speak with your users. People that tell, like app developers that tell their users why they want this ads, or this data, or this permissions, have a much higher chance to get them. So now let's go a bit more to the tech side of it, and let's talk about other ways to get data. One, DMPs, and we'll discuss it soon. Second is app permissions. We have permissions when we request for permission when we install the app. And then we have services like in-app analytics or tracking companies, AppsFly or Tune or Localytics and Mixpanel on the in-app analytics side, and much other companies that have tons of data. Connect your data from the analytics to your tracking. Use it as an additional data to optimize what you do. So how to use this data? If I'm a publisher and I can use more data to do better targeting, then I can increase my eCPM, I can get more money per ad, but also I can increase the LTV because people would want to see this ad. People actually see the ad as something that helps the user experience. This will help me to get more valuable IDFAs. IDFA is a unique identity for each user, and this actually will increase my valuation, not only from getting more money from ads, but also my data worth more money. So I really see successful monetization as using data in a right way. If I'm an advertiser, it's similar. I will use more data. I will have a better targeting. I will buy users that are cheaper, but also much more relevant. So they will be more engaged in buy more in-app purchases. And this also will increase my valuation. Then let's speak about to be transparent. Because today some companies are afraid to share data because they want to keep it to themselves. Being more transparent as an app developer to give the vendor, as the publisher to give the advertiser, really will help you to do things better. And then really fast on these more advanced topics, increase LTVs by doing a more of a personalized experience, and we can discuss this later. We can predict the user behavior, like the example I gave you from flying to Rome. If you have an hotel, you would want other services there. And analyze the full journey. The full journey from the click, from the impression to the install, tells us a lot about what's going on. The last attribution model of only the install counts is wrong, because some companies have brand awareness effect. And some companies, just by seeing their ads, the conversion rate will later increase. So it's really on going deeper and looking on a much more advanced and sophisticated way about these things. Facebook and Apple are changing their policy. Facebook don't allow us to use user-level data anymore, not only through the tracking companies, also through a direct publisher. And also they're giving us solutions for analytics, but in exchange they want all the organic information, because this is a data battle. And also Apple don't agree us to use information on the iOS 9 version from what apps installed I have on my device, and to learn from that and to take decisions better. So we need to be in charge of our own data solution. What's a DMP? A DMP is a platform to crunch all the information you have from your app. And we spoke about how you can get data. You could also buy more information. But this is the basic model. OK, let's explain it very quickly. Data in is all the data I get from permissions, from the IDFA, from my Apple user, Google user, and etc. Each one of these IDFAs is standalone in his world. The goal of the DMP is to crunch them to have a universal ID that will combine all the information from all the data in sources. Data out is similar, but the opposite. So if I am using my data to do a campaign on Facebook, and a campaign on a video, and an email campaign, and other campaigns on social, if I can use the information from each one of these platforms and combine them to have a much more sophisticated and better understanding, that's great. In general, this topic is about how to optimize and how to see the data as people, as personas, and not as devices or numbers in your report. And we can talk a lot more about this topic. Just the DMP can be a standalone lecture. I wanted to give you a brief on some topics, and then we can go deeper and speak about them. We'll skip this part. OK, this is really important, just to sum up 5 ways how to really turn your data to better campaigns. 1, don't hide what you're after. If you're an app developer and you want a location-based permission from your end users just to see their location and do a better and serve better ads, tell them that. People are afraid that you want this location to sell the data. Tell them that you will not sell the data and you use it for internal reasons. Respect the privacy. Yes, data is crucial. We can learn a lot from data, but still remember that there are people behind this data, and these people don't want the world to know all that you know about them. Think outside of the user data box. Here, be more creative. Think of more ways to optimize. For example, use untrivial data sources to understand better. For example, if you can, I'll give you an example. If you can understand, like we discussed before, about the time where the user is, if he's at work or at home, this is something more sophisticated. If we can use image recognition from his selfies on his device, see who he is, it's also awesome. But be careful with regulation issues here. Define your end goal. What do you really want to achieve? How can you optimize your goals if you don't really define them and tell all the companies you work with? What exactly is your end goal? And use data with caution. Data can really help you to do better things, but at the end, there's people there. If the data tells you that this user needs to see a specific ad, okay, serve it to him. But if he saw the same ad 5, 6, 7 times, what's the idea to show it again? So also think, yes, use data, but also think what's the actual and practical end of your action. So this was a really, really short presentation on some general topics around data. First, if you have some questions, I would love to answer them. And if not, I'll stay here and we can discuss these topics into more details. Or even we can share information and have like a call next week and go into these things. Thank you very much for attending.
Okay. Well, I got a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
So how do you compete with platform like, let's say we talk about Machine Zone. So they buy from 20 different inventory places. They have a real-time bidding system for ads. So how can you, as a simple developer, get something as good?
Yeah. So Machine Zone is a very interesting example because they're a huge company with the resources to have everything internally in terms of tech, in terms of data. So maybe Machine Zone can afford to work with so many different vendors in different companies and to crunch and match everything together. And still they are having, I'm sure, some hard time with it. But I believe the majority of the apps, like 80% or 90% of the apps, will not be able to do it, and then they will need some partners that will be able to utilize their own technology for these services. The reason why we launched our DMP is because we saw that most of the apps developers don't have the efforts to have their own data platform, and then if we can give them this platform for free, we believe it can really help them to use data in a better way. Okay, thank you.